Welcome back to Ladies of Another View, and I want to welcome back our guest, DawnMarie, who is with Project 21, and you also have a consulting business, so I want to hear about that just a little bit. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be back.
And tell me a little bit about your private business, too, that you have.
Well, an uncommon voice coaching and consulting is really designed to give people their voices back. Um, I have, been told so many times that I talk too much or just negative things in regards of who I am. As you say, we were commenting on the break about my nails and my color and the lipsticks, and I'm like, whoa, this is me, fun. And I was always told to tone that down. Even recently, with things that I've written in regard for Project 21 as it relates to race and different topics, my voice has tried to be shut down. And I want people to get their voice back. Every person is uniquely made. They have a purpose in this society, and we need not to shut them down. See, true love is without performance, and we don't have to agree with everything. And that's what our founders taught us. So I want to encourage people, black, white, short, tall, to use your voice and be able to own it. We have to stop expecting people to, or putting something out there and then not owning it. I want to help people be confident in who they are, but understand that who you are, not everybody's going to like, but understand you have to own that and be confident and bold in it.
That's so important of course it has to come from your family, I feel, first, between church, believe in God and stuff like that. And then we kind of we put our kids into public education, and now they're being taught from such a young age that free love, sex, just protect yourself. There's no consequences. And if something happens, you have the right to have an abortion and things like that. And it's being integrated at such a younger and younger age. How do you feel about that?
Oh, this may not go over well, but I'm going to be honest. I think we have to balance it, but go back to a little bit of old school. We can't come after the society and what they're teaching in school when, unfortunately, so many of our parents are allowing their children to be sexualized. I've been at churches and young girls have on half tops, and I'm like, why is your belly button showing at church? And their pants are hanging down, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Or your shorts are so short that don't bend over. And I've talked to young men in church, and they're like, sometimes it's hard to stay focused because of how the young ladies come to church. My point is when are we going to teach modesty? See, there's a difference in believing what we say about our spirituality or our faith, and then there's acting it out. Now, some people have an issue with that because they call it behavior modification. So we have to find that balance, and sometimes it's a very fine line, and it does start in the home. Mother and father should be the influencers, and then they, as Christians, or I'm assuming, are going to be the original influencers of society. We're not just here to just hide our light under a bushel. So when society is screaming loud, then we need to scream louder. And 2020 has taught us that, because now we're finding things out, and now we're trying to backpedal and go. But we have the authority, we have the power. For those of us that are walking in a specific line of faith, we do have that power to begin to shift the narrative about modesty and showing the beauty of how you can cover up and how you cannot have and not look for love in all the wrong places. But when we are putting our kids on social media, we're having them do dances that are seductive at 3 and 5 years old, and we're calling it cute, or because we don't want to be the helicopter parent, or we don't want to be too strict and not liked. We just have to go back to the basics. There's nothing wrong with, you should be a parent, not a friend. You should be a parent. And then you should build that self-esteem. And fathers, we need fathers, especially for our daughters. We talk about the nurturing of mothers, but fathers really bring in that confidence, that identity, that self-awareness. So it's a whole family unit. And as we begin to do that and go back into the family, regardless of whether you're white, Hispanic, or black, it doesn't matter. We have to go back to the source and know that there's power in that source, and then our kids will look to us.
Yep.
Well, amen. Amen. We need to get you in all the schools. And so, DawnMarie, have you recently been commenting about the whole situation with voting in Georgia and the Major League Baseball?
I did put something out there. Project 21 reached out, and I did put a comment. And, it's really sad. What we see happening is this. Unfortunately, I hate to say the left or the right, because I'm a mediator also, and I like to bring people together. But because we live in a society, especially after 2020 and all that we saw, we know that a lot of white Americans don't want to be associated with racism because they're not what they're being called or being threatened with. And so there's this big hype. And so the powers that be, okay, have used it against people. They've weaponized racial issues against people when there doesn't need to be a weaponization. And so they want to do what? They want to hurt people. What's the best way to hurt people and penalize them? You hit their wallet. You hit their wallet. And so that's all it was. It didn't have the result that they thought that it was going to have by moving it. And now, as you said, Patty, they're kind of walking back with their tail between their legs going, oh, okay, I think we're coming back. So it was never an issue of race. It was an issue of trying to hurt and penalize people. And that's what we have to stop doing. And we have to start speaking up and saying, nay, nay, I am not a racist. We're not going to do that. That's a ploy to try and threaten. You will not bully me. And we just have to continue to stand up.
And the reason they did this is because they were trying to prove a point that Georgia passed a law for voter integrity laws. So they thought that Georgia's being racist, so they're going to move it to Denver. And in the back end, it hurt a lot of businesses. But I mean, this voter integrity law, I mean, it didn't do anything wrong. It was only trying to help so we don't have election fraud and things like that, but they're trying to turn it all around.
They do, but that's only because they want to control the narrative, and we have to control the narrative. There's nothing wrong with voter laws and IDs. There's nothing wrong with that. And so there's a way to do it. There's a number of states that are opening it up, and I think it should be opened up. But we just need to monitor. When you send your tax return in, if somebody else sends it in with your information, it's immediately flagged. And I think that that's something that we also need for voter registration, that if you vote and then you try to vote again, it should be immediately flagged. So there are things that we can do to open it up. But, evil will always try to run rampage. But we know that good will always win in the end. We just have to stand firm and continue the fight.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, because when Georgia wanted to have some voter integrity laws, everybody said, Jim Crow laws, oh my gosh. But then in the last election in November, there was their black voters participated more than ever before. So it wasn't a racist voting laws. They were just trying to make sure we had integrity. And so lo and behold, the Major League Baseball is coming back for their All-Star game. But in the meantime, they hurt a lot of business owners, many of which were black business owners. So it's almost like they're so woke that they're protesting when they don't even know what they're talking about. But thank you for coming on today, DawnMarie. And